Hello, this is Gray Hughes. As many of you are aware, I've created a new YouTube channel called Personal Paranormal Experiences. Now, this channel is going to be dedicated to individuals who want to tell their own personal paranormal experience. I will not be debunking or trying to disprove it. It's just your story. I've also created a Facebook group to augment the YouTube site, and on the Facebook group that's titled Personal Paranormal, you come on, you tell your story and upload photographs, and then we conduct an interview that I record, and then that is used as the main narration of your own personal paranormal experience. Now, today's episode was experienced by Audra Blankenship. It took place in central Oklahoma, and it's titled, I See You. Now let's get started on this episode right now.
Okay, I'll just start with the basics. My husband and I and our two children, who were 10 and almost 1 when we moved in to this property back in early 2003. The property is located east of the Indian Meridian in central Oklahoma. The lands here were once Potawatomi Nation lands. And we found out later, much later, from a friend of ours that the first owner of these properties were part of her family, and he had purchased a plot about 160 acres that contained our small 5 acres, and owned and ran an illegal moonshine operation off of these properties. And it's just sort of an interesting tidbit to have that bit of family history on the property where we are located. The main road where our property is accessed from is called Triple X Road. And she says that, according to local legend, that is why that name of that road is Triple X, is because her family ran that distillery and moonshine operation out of here. In any case, we put in a brand new manufactured home at that time. There were about 5 or 6 other neighbors that owned property in this neighborhood. And we started putting in, all of our furniture and all of our appliances and things. And we began to have some interesting things that started happening around us at our home. Well, shortly after we moved in, we started setting things up, and my husband and I were installing a ceiling fan in our back living area. And we had only a small number of tools at that time, being a young new home and a young couple. We had all of our tools with us in the back living area, and my husband had walked into the utility room, which is adjacent to the back living area, and started being upset and yelling pretty loud because there were some cuts in the linoleum flooring. There was 2 long cuts and 2 small cuts, and they were straight through the linoleum into the subflooring, and we could not figure out how that would happen. Now, we decided that since it wasn't one of us, it had to be our older daughter. You'd have to have some strength, and you'd have to have a razor or some kind of utility knife to do that. Now, we had no idea how she might have done that, but at that time, we blamed it on her. Shortly thereafter, my son was starting to walk. He was about 8 to 10 months old and toddling around and jabbering. And around his first birthday, we started noticing that he was babbling and talking incessantly to this one particular area of the house. And it was the corner in front of the utility area adjacent to the fireplace. And he would say things like, "Oh, funny Papa," and "Oh, look at Papa." And we did not have anyone in our family named Papa. His living grandfather is called Gramps, and his dad is called Daddy. Around that same time, we had a cat that would also meow as if she were seeing bugs or something in that corner, and would refuse to go into that utility room. So we eventually had to let the cat go back to my mother's home, which is where we had moved from. My daughter, at the time, who was a very private child, had always enjoyed her free time alone and had mostly spent the time in her room with the door shut. Around this time, when we first moved in here, she started leaving her door open all of the time. When I questioned her about this, not that I minded, just that she was displaying a different behavior, she said that she was scared and that she had been seeing like a shadow figure of a man, she described it as a man, in the doorway of her room, and she felt like she had someone watching her. So she was leaving her door open, A, because it was a white door, and whenever she had the door closed, she could see this shadowy figure more apparently, and B, because she was very scared. Now, I would be scared too, but I just explained to her that it was probably just a play of light, or, her imagination or something like that. One evening I was reading a book, and I even remember the name of the book and exactly what part of the book I was on. I was laying on the couch, which is right in front of her bedroom, a wall. I was just relaxing, and I had every light in the back room on. I hadn't ever experienced anything back there myself. But this evening I heard and felt a woman's voice right in my ear say my name, like, "Audra." I could feel the vibrations right against my ear. It was very startling, and I sat right up and looked around, and I didn't see anything. No one was awake, and I didn't feel like it was necessary to wake anyone up, so I just laid back down and went back to reading. Now, later on, I discussed this with my husband, and he had said that he was seeing little shadow beings right out of the corner of his eye. Shortly thereafter, I started seeing little shadow beings just out of view. Like if you look towards them, they'd go right away. And we were just all starting to kind of get pretty creeped out and paranoid. One day, my sister-in-law was over at the house, and we were scrapbooking in the kitchen, and she was facing the refrigerator, and I was facing the window, and I was looking down, and she was looking down, and I glanced up, and right behind her, a small child that looked to be a boy to me in a night dress, like a nightgown, a white nightgown. The boy was semi-transparent, ran right behind her, between her and the sink and into the cabinetry, and disappeared. And right when I looked up and saw that, she stood straight up and was startled. And I said, "Mary, what's the matter? That ghost get you?" And I was kind of teasing her, because when you see something like that, you sort of doubt your own sanity or kind of what you're seeing. And she said, "Shut up, Audra. That's not funny. I felt something walk by me and put its hand on my back." And I was just in shock, because it was confirming what I had seen. And I explained to her what it was that I had seen, and she was just shaken. We were both just very shaken by the experience. Now, I had never seen an apparition like that before. Because someone else was there with me, I felt comfortable to tell my husband and a few other people about it. But we didn't really go around telling the whole world about what we were experiencing. Shortly after that, maybe a week or so later, I was lying in bed, and my son was, when he was a baby, a pretty light sleeper, and he liked to roam around the house. He would escape from his crib and roam around the house. So we would leave a lot of lighting on. Anyways, I was lying in bed reading one night. My husband was asleep next to me in bed. And I look over to my left side, just with my eyes, not with my head, and I realize that I can't really move my head or the rest of my body, and I'm having a hard time breathing. And when I look over, I notice that there are two small children standing between my side of the bed, which is near the wall of the bedroom, and some quilts that hang on the wall that my mother made are two small children, and they're semi-transparent. And one is the child that I had seen before, and another is an older child that is a girl dressed in an old-timey dress with a white collar. I really can't see a pattern on the dress or anything, but I can see the white collar in contrast to the dress. She has kind of curly Shirley Temple-like curls. And I say to the girl something along the lines of, "Well, hello there." And she says, "Hello, my name is Sarah, and I like your doll room," which at the time I had a guest room that had my old children's things in it, and dolls, and was done up in dollies. And I looked over and I said, "Well, is this your brother?" And she says, "No, that's not my brother. That's my sister. She had a haircut, and because she was sick." And right then, my son walked in the room and started crying, and I snapped out of it, and I was able to move again, and the children were gone. And I was just in shock, and I went and got him, and I just didn't know what to do. And I didn't really talk to anybody about this for a while. I did tell my husband later, but we went to a neighbor's house for an HOA meeting, and it kind of came up in the meeting because of some oddities that other people had been experiencing. And the person who owned the house next to us had mentioned why nobody would sit in this one chair was because he thought it was occupied. I kind of got tired of hearing the noises and seeing things like the shadows, and my kids being a little scared. My nieces wouldn't come over, things like that. And one day I just said out loud, I said, "Hey, whoever or whatever you are, please leave us alone. I'm tired of this. It's rude. I'm tired. You leave my house. Go pester someone else." And I don't know if it was just working that trick on my mind to get it out of my mind or not talking about it much anymore. But for whatever reason, I haven't had any more interactions or noises or shadows. And thank goodness, because I was getting tired of it. But anyway, that's my story. Thanks.
And thank you, Audra. That was a very interesting story, and I hope you guys thought that was interesting as well. Makes me wonder about the property that house was located on. Now, if you'd like to tell your own story, make sure to join the Facebook group called Personal Paranormal. Tell your story, and we will get started on it. And as usual, until next time, everybody, be safe out there.